Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members, please.
Mayor Martin,
Here.
Trustee Trombley, Kim is excused. Trustee Grisenda.
Here.
Trustee Trombley.
Here.
Trustee Garrett. Here.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussions, any corrections, deletions, additions?
No.
No? No?
Negative.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the last meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Petitions, presentation of petitions, communications, notices, general question period. Members of the community.
Want me to start?
Yes, if you will, sure.
Well, I wonder if I could get some advice and some relief on these water bills. I had a meeting with an attorney on it. His suggestion was that I come to the meeting and try to resolve it here.
Mhm.
We're talking about a neighborhood of $3,000 on the two buildings, and full water bills, sewer bills. In looking over the rules and laws, we don't really have any buildings there according to the taxes. Those buildings are not being taxed because they were non-usable. I have the tax statements here. I'm only being taxed on the lots. And according to the rules, you don't have to pay water to a lot until it's developed.
Mhm.
The village actually are the ones who condemned the buildings. They were not to be used. I had to get an engineer to inspect them and so on. But the point is that we don't feel there should be any bills on them until they're usable. And they are not usable now. I brought the tax statements here, and you probably already know that.
Mhm.
The value at the lot only on each of them.
Are you questioning the water bill itself, the
The
service
bills.
charge, or the bill for the product itself?
Well, whatever the bills are, the entire bill,
Okay,
water and sewage.
and you got the opportunity to look at the village code?
Yeah, I have it here. Yeah, we had it mailed to the attorney and we discussed it.
Mhm.
There are some questions on the village codes, but that's not the point. The point is that we don't feel that there's any buildings there to be charged against.
Well, I think in the code, and correct me if I'm wrong, the villages are there for development, and the service charge is there to maintain the system, and is charged for buildings that are developed or can be developed, if I'm reading the law correctly. And that's why, I mean, the service charge is there, it's in place in the village code so that we maintain the services,
Well,
the water services.
No question about, we know what it's there for. And I understand, because I've been through this before, I've had buildings there for 20-odd years.
Mhm.
And at times they're empty, and I understand service is there.
Yeah,
But in this situation, I couldn't use the service. There was no way I could use the service. Absolutely not.
okay.
There was a ribbon around the buildings, there was a sign on the door. I've got letters in here where I had to get an engineer, and you were at the meeting when I
Yes, I
took
was,
this
yes, I
discussion.
remember it, yeah.
Uh, So there's no way to use the service. There are some questions in the law, like I said, but that's not the point. That's something that if I want to fight it, we'd have to go to court for. But the point is that we don't think there's any grounds for charging,
Mhm.
because there's nothing to hook it to.
Okay, could I ask that I be given some time to look at this, to
Well,
research this?
certainly.
To talk to the village attorney about it, and I'm sure he'll be in contact with your attorney. And maybe we can come to a mutual conclusion.
I would rather have it that way, certainly.
Okay.
Is the 3,000 all just the use?
That was just a round number. The two, I have the numbers right here on, that's been turned over to the county.
Yeah.
It's, 1163 is approximately $1,594. And on the other one is, $647. Now, I'm not sure what period this is covering, how far.
Yeah, is that back while the building was still in use?
Well-
Are you behind on a lot of bills?
It was, the building was shut down, Mike would probably know better than I did, when they had the fire.
I believe it's only for the service charges from last June, starting the last July billing. Because anything that would have been outstanding in May would have been re-levied on the property
Well,
tax.
I paid a lot of old taxes on the property.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know about that, Mr. Trombley, but I believe it's just the service charges for those two buildings since last year, since June.
Up until,
So
End of December?
The January, well, I'm not sure what you have there, but the last billing we did was January 1st of this year, so.
that was the period through December, that
Right,
covered the.
right. I don't know if what you have includes the January billing, would be the last figure.
I don't know either, it just, it doesn't break it down here, this is the regular tax statement.
Oh, okay,
Okay, Mr. Trent, I'll get the bills out and I'll look at them and,
I was gonna just mention one clause here that was prepared on the sewer charges. All persons discharging or depositing waste into the public sewers shall pay a service charge. All persons discharging or depositing, we didn't either. That's how they described the sewer service charge.
okay,
Something that
I'll look at that.
you may have to change in the future, or maybe
I'll
we'll
look
look
at
at that. All right, that's it. 1165, we should be probably ready the 1st of April to ask for a certificate of occupancy.
That's the building in the,
1165, the duplex.
yeah, okay.
And the other one, as soon as the weather allows us, we will continue with our stone work, and probably by midsummer should have that one ready. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
We talked before the meeting.
Okay. Nothing more? Okay. Mr. Tatro, code enforcement.
It's been fairly quiet, a lot of snow, a lot of cold. We started the training for the zoning and planning board members. We had a good turnout last week. We had, I believe, 17 members between the three communities, so Champlain, I have to commend them. The secretary was there, the only one I could get of all the secretaries, so my hat's off to Donna.
Thank you, Mike.
Pat on the
I
back.
don't know, I thought it went well. Larry was there, Steve Meyer was there, Clark Herdick, Janet, a few others, Bing was there.
Yeah.
So the village of Champlain was well represented. I was quite pleased with it.
I think everybody was about Peter, but he was,
Yeah, he was gone.
he was in Florida.
Right. It's going to continue. We have another class tomorrow night, then 2 weeks another one, and then the final one will be March 30th. So I think it's turning out wonderful. Of all the things the Shared Services Committee accomplished, I think this is probably one of the better ones.
Well, it's an excellent way for all of the board members to be trained and to be certified for a 3-year period.
And again, a lot of this is dependent on what the local boards will approve as training. As the instructor pointed out, we are going to get a CD at the end. If we have new members coming on, they can view the CD, and basically it's an honorary system. If they feel they have enough information off the CD and the village or the town board feels that it's significant or enough, then that'll qualify for their 4 hours a year. So I think it's an excellent way to do it. You know, as long as people are going to sit on these boards, I think they have an interest in it, and I think that they will listen to the tape. So I did notice in the thing today that Mr. Dawson is resigning from the planning board, so
Yes,
I guess we'll be looking for a
looking for a new member.
yeah. Other than that, the code business is fairly slow. This is my time of year for all my training. I'll be gone next week for my annual code training. I just came back from New York City with the town. There's a lot of good information there. Other than that, if anybody has questions for me,
Questions for me?
waiting for the snow to go, or
Oh, we're all waiting for that.
well, things become more visible and got a few things in the wind here, so.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, follow up on what Mike was saying here for just a little bit. Spring is coming. Seems to be a little farther away than what we'd like, but it's coming. I'd like to thank the DPW crew, keeping our street sidewalks clear, usable. Had the opportunity to speak with many village residents, and they seem to be very satisfied for the most part about how our streets and sidewalks are cleared, taken care of after the multitude of storms that we've had to endure this winter. The efficiency that the snow is removed with the new plow, the new loader. I think both pieces of equipment immensely help our crew with the cleaning, managing the sidewalk, the street side snowbanks, and removing the site obstructions from our intersection, and greatly reducing the driving hazards that we could experience here in the village. The efficiency is greatly enhanced. Mike already remembered you've been copied with correspondence number 11, and I think I can speak for the board in this regard. We would like to thank Jack or John Dawson for his service to the Village Planning Board. His years on the board is greatly appreciated. If someone in the community is interested in joining the planning board, which is a very important function in our village, please express your interest to the village office, and I will be more than happy to speak with you about this position. A little reminder that voter registration day is March 5th from noon to 5 p.m. and that village elections will be held at the village office March 15th from noon to 9 p.m. I certainly encourage all registered voters to vote on election day. The village board will have its annual organizational meeting at its April 5th board meeting beginning at 6:30, and a public hearing on the tentative 2011-2012 budget is at 7 p.m. on April 5th at the board meeting. The budget, or the tentative budget, is available for review at the village office, and I encourage you to come in and review the budget, and your input would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Move on now. Mr. Gazinda.
Tonight, I do not have anything to report.
Okay. Mr. Trombley.
Mayor, I don't have any report tonight either.
Okay.
It's been quite a month.
You've been busy. Amy.
Couple things. One, thank you for the sidewalks. I've heard tons of compliments, especially for the walkers, that you're out there the day that it's snowing and clearing the sidewalk, and it's greatly appreciated, especially for the safety of our children. It's been a wonderful blessing to have, so I appreciate that. Also, the Zumba classes have been so successful that they added a third day at St. Mary's. So if anyone's interested in getting out there and doing something a little different for your health, the classes are on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays at 5:15 for an hour. And that seems to be going very well. They're actually going to have a Zumba-thon as a little fundraiser to help with St. Mary's Academy. As you know, there has been a deadline given for saving the school. So if anyone is interested in making donations or contributing, stop in at the office at St. Mary's. It's been part of our community for 106 years. It would be a shame to see that building get closed down. It holds a lot of events for the community. So it's important. We're going to be having lots of different fundraisers. Anyone interested, just stop in at the office and we'll fill you in on all the things that are going on. But we'd like to keep that as part of the community.
Important
Very
part of the
important.
community.
Yeah. And also at the high school, Jan Letourneau is going to be having a health fair. I apologize, I left the date on my desk. Oh, it's tomorrow night. So you can go up to the high school, get some information on all kinds of things that are going to be happening to better your health, what we're offering for adults and children in the community. So these are good information.
Thank you. Have the report from the clerk treasurer, please.
Everybody's been copied with the expense and revenue reports for February.
Big file.
And our accounts are fairly good.
I have a couple questions. Okay. Champlain Peterbilt, we had a pretty big expense, diesel.
We had a like $1,400 bill for diesel.
Figured something like that. And,
You need a motion for this first.
oh yeah, sorry, before we discuss, make a motion to accept the,
Well, are you doing purchase requisitions?
We'll do those, let's do the purchase requisitions first, and then we'll talk about the
Oh, she's talking about the warrant.
warrant,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay. Purchase requisitions, for map plans filed for zoning, A8010.2 for $159.99.
I see the,
make them pretty.
need a motion to
You want to both together? You got two.
approve both of them at once, or
Oh,
separately?
we can do that.
Let's
And
do
one
it
is for the electric stapler, when we got our new copy, we don't have one. Automatic stapler.
Return it.
So, to come out of A1325.2, $56.49.
Need a motion to approve the requisitions.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
have a roll call, please. Any
Trustee-
further discussion, I'm sorry, any further discussion? Okay, now we can vote.
Trustee Grisenda.
Aye.
Trustee Champlain.
Aye.
Trustee Garrett.
Aye.
Mayor Martin.
Aye. Okay, now we need a motion to,
Oh, and everybody could receive a copy of the tentative budget, which we'll have a meeting next month.
Yeah.
need a motion to approve the warrant.
Make a motion to accept the warrant.
Have a second,
Second motion.
now we can discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, now back to the Sears charge for tools. What did we buy? I mean, they're little insignificance, but just curious.
Pipe wrenches, crescent wrenches, vice grips, a couple hammers.
Do we have have we had a chance to start an inventory on these
Mhm.
tools? Wonderful. Okay. The Pollard Water Box Croft Freeze C12.
That's a chlorine analyzer.
Oh,
That does
chlorine
a- it's a
analyzer?
Chlorine analyzer that, if you want, you can look at it. It's hooked up in the back at the sink.
Okay,
And it runs off vinegar,
interesting.
and it gives you,
That's a
it'll give
cheap
you a
fuel.
total residual all the time.
Is it showing we're high on chlorine?
No.
Because at night it's very chlorine and tasty. Why is
Probably when the
that?
pump starts, the pump
Oh.
starts at night, so it runs at night, so.
Yeah, I have to run the
Yeah.
water quite some time before I get that taste out. Just curious. The tie sales for the meter, how are we standing with our meter repairs?
I didn't have any meter left. I bought 6 and I bought the repair parts and they took the old meters and so we have 12 meters on hand.
Excellent. How are we village-wide are we completely repaired now? How many would you say still need?
If there's any, then, yeah.
Wonderful.
And that, they've all been repaired, but as you do the billing, you find them occasional ones,
Right.
you know.
That's a wonderful improvement. Okay. And our step stool, is this some major wonderful step stool, like hold 10,000 pounds or something for $161?
What do you mean?
No, that's the ladder for the sewer plant.
That's the
one
ladder.
that was broke.
It's a step
And it
stool, I'm
holds
like, wow,
300
this is some
pounds.
amazing step stool.
Step
Okay.
ladder.
Well, we did buy a step stool.
Yes, I do have a step stool, but that's $9.
Okay, I'm like, wow. Okay.
Ladder for the sewer plant.
And obviously, there's got to be more to the gloves than just gloves at 304.
No, that's rubber gloves.
It's the
That's
special
'cause
blue
that's
gloves
for the
for
wastewater plant,
chemicals?
yes.
Okay,
It's cheaper to buy by the case,
yes. So how long will that last us? Year? 2?
probably a year and a half.
And the poly blend pump complete? 9,
That's for 900,
26.
that's the replacement pump
The
for the
replacement pump.
wastewater plant.
that's what I thought, wanted to make sure. Thank you.
These are the ones that we talked about at
The last meeting, yep. I
Very
just
good.
want to make sure.
Yep, very good.
Okay, that is it. Thank you.
Tom, any questions? No? No. I'd look this over before I ask my questions, so.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. We're here. Have a roll call vote for the warrant, please.
Trustee Kusenda.
Aye.
Trustee Trombley.
Aye.
Trustee Garrett.
Aye?
Mayor Martin.
Aye. Okay, the report from the superintendent.
You all have a copy of our report, keeping up with the roads. We stopped to pile some more sand. A Couple of days when it was quiet, we did the inside of the superintendent's office.
It
painted
looks
the walls and
great.
stuff,
Looks great.
And doing sidewalks and stuff. We are gonna read meters in another week, so.
How are we for going through the salt this year? I mean, I know we're putting it down right
We still have quite a bit left.
Good.
Yeah.
That's one of the pluses of having that salt shed,
Yeah.
so we don't have to mix it all and it's not
Exactly.
leaking out into the environment, and we are
Probably saved us $50,000.
able to mix it as we need it and
So
in
pay
the
for that
proportions
shed.
that we need it.
Yeah, I was expecting us to be like running out because it's been a, daily occurrence.
It's a
It's
big
great.
difference when you're salt and sand are under cover.
Wonderful. That's good to know.
Did you copy everyone with your summer of 2011?
The
Sidewalk
yeah,
plan?
have that.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have sidewalks to be repaired, Elm Street in front of Parsons Wall. We've been addressing that issue.
Yeah.
Having that wall repaired before it becomes a hazard. These sidewalks on Oak Street are in terrible need of repair.
We'll have to take a walk
How do you
through.
plan on doing that? Because those are the roots of the trees.
Well, we'll have to take a walk through, and there's gonna have to be some trees that's gonna have to come down.
Oh, no.
Either that or move the
There's no other
sidewalk.
way?
Move the sidewalk.
Well, look, sorry, but what if we like make like a bridge sidewalk, smooth it up over the
The
roots?
only other way of getting by with that and not having this,
Oh, those
the
beautiful
block
oak trees.
is to put asphalt, like having like plots it, so it comes up, it rolls with it and goes back down.
What's the expense for doing something like that as opposed to?
Well,
Might be cheaper to do asphalt.
it's probably about the same because you would figure labor-wise, pouring the cement, putting the forms in, taking them out, but
Right, and they break every time the tree
But if you ask,
grunts.
it'd be tough to do just spot repair, you have to repair.
yes,
large
you
Oh,
have
well,
to
yeah,
find
it's
do a section and
It's a
do it,
huge
you
section
know?
on Oak, it's
Yeah.
horrible. Yeah, a lot of people just walk on the streets instead of trying to sidewalk up.
Makes it very difficult to keep it clean.
That sidewalk is rough on the sidewalk machine.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah.
Most people walk down the road though, in the winter, because you can't get, see ice and everything because of the unevenness. So. Okay. You have a plan of action to start on this as soon as it thaws?
As soon as it thaws,
Okay, that's great. Because we've got quite a bit in the fund to get through this
Yep.
year, and then we can continue. Thank you for doing this, appreciate it.
And how long or how much effort is it to reset the pavers on Main Street?
it's just you have to take them out, and level off and retamp it. It's time consuming.
It's time consuming,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know Rouse's Point did it, and it was quite a process.
Mhm.
Yeah, long process.
Main Street's not the county?
What's that?
State? Main Street?
The sidewalks?
No.
Oh, the sidewalk, okay.
Yeah, the sidewalks, yes.
Okay.
Is that something one of our community service workers can do? We seem to get quite a few of them, which is quite nice.
I've had about 6 in the last week. Yeah, we'll get some,
Would they be able to do
yeah,
something with that?
level,
the tampons
hull
and
hull
levels?
sand and stuff and pack it and stuff, yeah.
They could
Great.
definitely disassemble sections and
Yep.
so on, and I'm sure it can be of help.
That'd be
But
great.
yeah, it is time consuming.
One of the common complaints that I'm receiving on the sidewalks is the removal of the grass and stuff between the sidewalks itself. It's tough to do, I know, but I guess we could be like my grandmother and do that box of salt before, right?
I don't think there'll be much grass on it come spring.
Okay, any other questions for Larry? Yeah. Do the correspondence first?
Correspondence to David Reynolds, Simquest regarding copier issue, notice of water testing violation and rescinding a violation by the Clinton County Health Department. Correspondence from Clinton County Health Department regarding annual operation permit fee for 2011. Correspondence from John Rowe, treasurer of the Champlain Memorial Library, requesting funding in 2011-2012. Correspondence from New York State Gas and Electric request regarding street lighting. Correspondence from Clinton County Health Department regarding water testing for 2011 and beyond. Correspondence from Assemblywoman Jana Dupree regarding CHIPS funding for 2011-2012. Correspondence from Clinton County Health Department regarding 2010 sampling results. Letter to Mr. Hunter, correspondence relating to Poirier versus Village of Champlain lawsuit. Correspondence from ARC regarding payment in lieu of taxes. Letter from John Dawson resigning from the planning board. Correspondence from Clinton County Highway Department regarding liability insurance and response from Superintendent Sorrell. Agreement between the Village of Champlain and Ken Delafranche for use of his property for snow removal.
Any questions or discussion on the correspondence? Notice that the CHIPS funding is the same as last year,
No, that's
which is good.
awesome.
Okay, old business, nothing new on the GSA meter. Town Water District, any movement there, Mike?
Not yet, no, we're waiting for the DOT. We've developed a new water sewer contract with the town of Champlain. The village's legal counsel has looked at it, said it is okay. The town is in the legal process. I spoke with Mr. Cooper today, and he's just waiting to speak with Mr. Southwick, and as far as I know, it's ready to go.
Okay, so we can, once we get that information, then we can maybe look at the April meetings to sign the
Yeah.
contracts. Okay. Under new business, we have a resolution for voter registration day on March 5th, 2011. To approve.
Notice of voter registration day, Village of Champlain, Champlain, New York. Whereas the general village election of officers of the Village of Champlain will be held on March 15, 2011, and whereas no person shall be entitled to vote at any village election whose name does not appear on the voter registration on the register of the village district in which it claims to be entitled to vote, and whereas it is the duty of inspectors of election to prepare such register of qualified voters for the district for which they are appointed, and whereas Section 516 of the election law of the state of New York requires that every village hold a registration day for each general village election. Now be it resolved that, first, registration day for the village shall be held on Saturday, March 5th, 2011. Second, such registration shall be held at the village office, 1104 Route 9 Main Street, Champlain, New York, from 12 noon until 5 p.m. Third, voting for the forthcoming village election shall be conducted at the village office, 1104 Route 9 Main Street, Champlain, New York, on March 15, 2011, between the hours of 12 noon and 9 p.m. Fourth, at least 10 days prior to the registration day set in this resolution, a copy of such resolution shall be published in the official newspaper, and a copy thereof shall be posted in at least one conspicuous public place in such election district. Fifth, the resolution shall take effect immediately.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Yes, we need a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Martin,
Aye.
trustee Grisenda,
Aye.
trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
Okay. Second order of business under new business. We need to discuss the village dissolution. We've had this for the last couple months at a resident's request. I would like the board to discuss this, how they feel about the zoning in the village, how they, what is their feelings, what is their thoughts, what is the pros and cons, I suppose. Do we have a motion to discuss this?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we want to take each of us, or how do you want to discuss this?
Sure.
Okay. Amy, you want to lead off?
Oh, sure. I have lots of thought. I mean, there's so much involved in doing this. There's lots of pros, there's lots of cons. It seems that I have more cons outweighing the pros in my list of things. Some of the pros is, I feel, is doing away with duplication of services for us, having 2 zoning boards, 2 planning boards, 2 complete staffs. We'll be absolving most of the staff is what I see from what I read, but we'll cut down on 2 buildings. So the savings of shutting this building down, the expenses of running this building is pretty significant. My concerns with all of that, however, is will our village be looked at and taken care of as closely as it is now if we become all part of the town, is my concern. And we really have a luxury that we pay minimal expenses for by having that, our roads are cleared, within 2 hours of the guys coming on, completely cleared. And now our sidewalks are being done immediately within the same day. It's a luxury, but it's a luxury I'd like to maintain for the safety of our villagers, and for the community as a whole. Another pro is a combination of our assets. We have lots of beautiful new equipment, and with us sharing the culmination of the 2, I think would be very positive. Another positive is that grant money would cover the cost of the expense, possible grant money, which is a pro and a con, to cover the expense of taking a look at dissolving the village, which is a pretty significant expense. Anywhere from $21,000 to $54,000 based on what our budget is and what our expenses are is the cost it would be to take a look at this. The time consuming is what I see as extremely overwhelming. We don't have the staff to even begin to do that. We would have to hire a consultant. And the important thing is that we're looking at apples to apples when we look at consolidating. Are we looking at other towns, villages, that have the wastewater, that have the water? That's our other concern. We control that. We run it. People in the town do not have the licensures to even do that, and to begin to even be able to lead or govern these 2 municipalities, I think would be a great concern of mine. How do we inform, everyone of how they work, how they function as a whole, and, would our staff be, taken in and be taken care of, or are we going to have, add to the unemployment lines is a great concern of mine. If we end up laying off people, or people are no longer part of the village, that becomes a cost to the villagers only as far as post-health care obligations as well. So if they choose to continue to carry their health care, we have to absorb that cost, and it's being taxed to the villagers, from what I read.
Only the debt.
Just the debt part of it, right. But if they, say for example, if Juanita no longer is with us and she wants to maintain her health care, that is added on to only the taxpayers that reside within the village. It is not absorbed by the town. So we still would have some costs involved with that, and that's important to know. We will see a reduction. The town folks will probably see an increase. But are the reductions great enough to warrant the possible expense that comes out of our pocket? If we call for this study to be done, and the grant money is not there, and with the funding that's happening in New York right now, I would not bank anything on that money being there. It's gonna fall on us. And whether we do the study and then it comes to the voters, and the voters then turn it down, we still are out that $21,000 to $54,000 in doing the study, which is a big concern. Are we that bad off that we need to do this? We also have to take into effect all the labor issues with the union and whatnot. We have to honor contracts until they're done. And that's at our expense. It will not be absolved by the town, as well as our debt. And a big negative is our service continuity gonna be there? Are we gonna have the service that we have grown to love and expect? You know, I know if we have a snow and I go outside and they haven't come around, I'm like, where are they? And next thing you know, they're by the house, you know, and it's done, and you know that you're gonna get out onto your road and it's gonna be cleared. If it's absorbed by the town, will they do the same care to us that we are getting now? Big concern. The loss of our local control, will there be a representation of villagers on the board? You know, we represent our villagers quite nicely, and will that be able to be continued with absorbing to the town? One of the nice things that they say, and they said quite often, repeated, is that we can seek other alternatives, and with the shared services, you know, we've done that, you know, not to the level that I would like to see, but I think that there is still opportunity out there for things that we can share without going through the expense of dissolution. What services can we combine? What can we do to work together as a team? There's gotta be more things out there that we can save and cut back on some costs that we might be incurring that, you know, they can, you know, the town can help us out with, or Rouse's Point can help us out with. We've gotta continue to work on fostering that relationship, which I know is very strained at times. I would really like us to see work on that. So if we concentrate not so much on the absolving of the village, but what are some other alternatives to reduce some costs and to share some of the services? Intermunicipal contracts, you know, that we can work together. There would be and could be a cost savings there, and maybe not go through the major expense of shutting down the village and hoping and praying that it'll be okay and we're gonna see this great savings on our taxes. We still, as I said, we would still have the water, the sewer issues. You know, the town doesn't know what to do with that. They don't have that experience, they don't have that knowledge, they don't have the licensures, which is a concern of mine. And in fact, again, if we go through this whole, looking at it, and going ahead with the procedures, the time involved and the expense involved is quite heavy for any of us to absorb right now. I think that the alternative that they suggest is to look at what are some other options to combine services, to consolidate, to put some agreements in place between the villages and the towns. I think that would be a wonderful option to take a look at, and it wouldn't take such a huge army of people to do that. And I think that is all of my, I don't know, there's so many, but I think that will do.
Well, thank you. Tom?
Well, when I think I reviewed the same document, and I came to a lot of the same conclusions that Amy did, as in, number one, I think the amount of time that is going to be expended, even seriously considering this, is huge. I also have those same concerns as far as services. I don't, you know, we don't know unless the study's done. I don't think the amount of money saved is going to outweigh the amount of services lost. And I think it's not because they're not going to want, you know, the town would want to service the village in the same manner we do. It'd be difficult for them to do that. I mean, you know, it would be overwhelming for them to try to maintain the same amount of services here in the village while maintaining all their other roads. You know, an example may be how we, you know, have strived to pave a street every year. We're trying to do you know, we're putting extra effort into sidewalks, I don't think you would, you know, you would see that. I think you would see a loss in that.
Right, would the village roads be chosen?
Yeah, exactly. I
I
mean,
know.
you gotta spread those tax dollars now over all this acreage. I mean, I think you would see a loss in services. That's my prediction. I don't think it would be because it would be intended to be that way. I just think it's the nature of the beast. And I too am afraid that we would have to fund the money to look at the study. I've been afraid of that from the start. So, that's my view and my opinion on it.
That's what we're asking for. Okay. Tom? Any thoughts?
Yeah, a few thoughts. I do agree with Amy's points. They're very valid. Being new exposure to the village is kind of doesn't really, puts me in a premature position to actually decide or say what can be and what may not come of this. But as a resident and a property owner for approximately 10 years, I feel have received excellent service, whether I asked for or didn't, from the group of the village. I personally would not want to see that go away. I've been very pleased. Now, being more exposed with the workings of the village, not as much yet to actually to look at it as far as savings, loss. I still see redundancy. Districts will have to reform. It's still, everything's going to operate there, but it's going to be essentially thinned out. And not in the hands of people who have been here for such a long time, that know the operations day-to-day basis. So I think that would be a concern as a resident, that kind of being left out in the dark a little bit if everything was to be absorbed into one entity that's not locally connected. I would not like, the history alone of the village itself, that would be a shame to lose, as more as that's just a personal feeling. But I think it would be difficult for the town, and the amount of time to go through this process. And unless there's some major flag up there that's saying this is the best thing for us to do if we're in trouble, I don't see those flags. And I would presume that continue on, and as Amy had pointed out, other services can be shared, and we can save money in that direction as opposed to spending it to try to save it.
What would happen to, I was reading about fire districts, and the combination, blah, 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 but with our water sewer rates and the town's water sewer rates, does it then become averaged together so that our water sewer rates are going to go up? That's another big component. We're going to see a significant increase with that. We do have the perk of having the control of the water and sewer, so people who don't like their bills now in the village, it's going to be a significant difference.
And just to explain that perk, and not to interrupt you, but it's because we've invested, the village residents have invested into the infrastructure over years. That's why there's a difference.
Exactly.
I just wanted to point that out for everybody, but yes, you would, I would assume that you would have to balance the rates and
After the debt has been taken care of. That is the largest part of our, I think our debt structure is very low here. And the significant part of it is the water and wastewater that we were, to lack of a better term, forced to invest in. And that will be paid for by the village residents, even if the solution took place today. There are, and I guess as I was going around with Tom and Kim with our petitions for re-election, and talking to village residents, and sometimes at length, I would set a goal that I would go out for 2 hours and talk to 10 people. Very often my 2 hours was taken up by talking to 3 people. And it's the village's concern, the residents' concern about the state of the village And they all had questions about this dissolution process, as they should, and I'm glad that they had. I feel the majority of them, in our discussions, were not in favor of dissolving this village. It was a loss of control. I think a lot of folks, especially the old folks in our village, enjoyed the identity of being a resident of the village of Champlain, which has a long and, I think, a very nice history. They feared the lack of control over water, having their streets taken care of, the sidewalks. The tax rate. If you look at our tax rate, I think our tax rate is very low. I think it's very good in terms of comparison to other communities. Our water and wastewater rates are at or below the median for New York State. So I feel our water and wastewater rates overall, I think they're very fair, to be honest. If I thought dissolution was going to be a benefit, I think, and I think the board would support it 100%. I don't think it's going to be a cost savings. I don't think that we are going to save any money by dissolving this village, which is very well run. It's very well managed. The financial state of this village is very good. We have worked very hard over the last 6 years to maintain a sense of stability and a sense that this village is on the right track. I know, because I've lived here for 25 years, that there are things that are needed in this village. I know that downtown needs some development and cleaning up. I know that we need to bring more businesses into this village. I know that we need more things to do for our constituents. We have a plan, a tentative plan, to create some recreational facilities downtown on village-owned land. When we do the streets, we can lay some blacktopping down there, some tar, and put in a tennis court or a basketball court, someplace to flood in the wintertime for our constituents to skate on. There are things, but they are expensive. I would like to see a filtration system on our water supply. It's expensive. I would like to see some water softening in our water supply. I would like to see an increase in water pressure in areas that need an increase in water pressure, especially Prospect Street. But I look at this village and I'm proud to sit on this board. We've made a difference in 6 years. I like living in this village. I like the small community. I like the aspect that I know that if I need help, it's a phone call away. I don't know that I'm going to get that consideration if this village was dissolved. I don't think our tax rate is going to go down overall with dissolution. There are some considerations. I mean, we pay the town through the municipal law, highway use, we pay the town a significant amount of money every year. That is something that is I guess we can debate it. I don't know how we're going to fix it. But I guess my thinking here is, if this village was to dissolve today, would we be any better off tomorrow? And looking at this, looking at the study, looking at what is necessary, from a financial standpoint, there is money available through the state to do these services, to do these studies. I referenced what's going on in the village of Malone and the town of Malone. They've been waiting a long time for this funding. This is a very difficult, time-consuming approach. When the study begins, and it will take quite a bit of time and effort on all of our parts to see this through, both entities, both the town and the village. Again, I think, to repeat myself here, if we all felt that this was going to be of benefit, I think we would be pushing to support it. I don't think it's going to be of benefit to the residents of the village of Champlain. Again, if I thought it was going to be different tomorrow, maybe I would think differently. But I don't think if you dissolve this village today, or the 1st of December, or the 22nd of June, I don't think the day after that, the village residents are going to see anything any better than what they have right now in a well-managed, stable community. I guess I don't know why we would want to take this out, to take this away, and to move everything that we have. And I know that we have some definite needs here in this village. But to take everything that we have and sign it over to another entity and, in effect, dissolve what we have done here. I don't see that as a positive. I don't see that as a way for us as a board or for us as residents of this village to go on. This may change in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. I know this has been brought up before, and it was not fulfilled, it was not carried out, and I think the village residents understand that there are things that they need here, but there are plenty of positives that they have and they enjoy, and is effective for them. I think we have a stable situation here in this village. It's been some time to bring that about, but I think today, from a financial sense, we are fairly stable. From a services sense, we are very good. From representing the people in the village, I got the sense that they were mostly very happy with what we are doing and with what the village stands for. There will always be people, and that's great, but there will always be people who don't agree with what I'm saying here, and that's okay. That's the public's right. That's the right of the individual. That's why we have a democracy. I think that this is not the right way to go at this point, at this time. I don't think that dissolving this village is going to be of benefit to the town residents or to the village residents. I firmly believe that the only one that is going to benefit, the only entity that will benefit from this dissolution is the state of New York. And we don't receive all that much funding from the state of New York, but it is a statewide push to dissolve the villages, and in some cases it may be of benefit. But I would hate to lose the chance to make this village better. That's my thoughts.
I have another question too, in reading, especially about our existing village laws and zoning laws. You know, we are quite different from the town itself.
Yes.
And my understanding is they would only be upheld for 2 years, and after 2 years, our zoning, our village laws and rules would be obsolete.
Yes.
I read that too.
So there's a pro and con to it. You know, my son would be thrilled. He had lots of horses and chickens and all that stuff. But when we're so close together, is that going to be a good thing, you know, as a component, you know, to have your neighbor that you see right out the window have a stash of chickens cooking around? It's
Well,
great in the open area. As I said, you know, my son would be thrilled with that. But that's another thing too, you know, we have very strict laws and rules to help maintain the look of our village. And I know downtown is very rough, but you know, we do a lot of diligent effort to maintain the mowing, all these other things that keep our village to the standards that we look for. So, that was my understanding, and that's why my question is, am I correct in that? It says here, except as otherwise provided in the dissolution plan, of course, we could put it in the plan that all rules will maintain possibly. It says all local laws, ordinances, rules, and regulations of the village in effect on the date of the village's dissolution, including but not limited to zoning ordinances, remain in effect for 2 years following the dissolution, as if they had been adopted by the town board and are enforceable by the town within the limits of the dissolved village. The town board may amend or repeal such local laws, ordinances, rules, or regulations at any time.
Yes, so they
Otherwise, they would
necessarily
stay.
would not have to be in place for a year or two.
Right, they could.
Once
cut it out.
dissolution took place and the date of dissolution was arrived at, planning and zoning rules could change.
Okay. But in the meantime, the one zoning board would have to keep track of what our zoning and
Yes.
laws and regulations are,
Yes.
on top of what theirs are, and you have one board, it's not
Yes.
two boards.
Yes. And it would be the same with retained personnel. There is a difference, even though our personnel and their personnel is represented by the Teamsters Union, there is some differences in contract settlements between the town and the village. The town would have to maintain for 1 year our contract with our workers, with the retained workers. And then that would change after a year. And how many of the village employees would be retained, I think is a question that we also need to look at very carefully.
And we would maintain their contract, the villagers would pay for that difference, the town would not absorb that difference, is my understanding, correct?
Yeah, that's how I read it as well.
And there's, the possibility exists that all of our employees would be retained in this economic state and I guess in a sense of the village and the functioning of the village. I think all our employees are necessary. I think all our employees, we don't have a large number of employees, but they all have very valuable jobs within the village. And I would like to see, that to go on as it has. I think that's important in today's economic climate, I wouldn't look at this dissolution study as a way to lower our workforce, but I think that will be the result of the dissolution study. There's still, as mentioned, we still need licensed individuals to run our water and wastewater plant. We still need people here to maintain the roads and the sidewalks, but whether that service will be kept within the village personnel or assumed by the town personnel is another question that the dissolution process would look very carefully at and answer, hopefully. There's some agreement between the village and the town. At least that's how I read that plan. So,
Yeah, just, can I read one more thing?
Sure.
Just, I thought this was pretty profound in the final statements on page 35 of the dissolution. It says, the issue of local government dissolution is complicated. Most people do not fully understand what local governments do, how they're structured in New York, or how New York state laws actually foster the large number of special districts and therefore local governments in New York. It is imperative that local government officials who understand these issues best educate the public, the media, and the other state and local officials. And I think that's very important, as Kevin, you've brought these issues to us, which is great, which forced us to look into a lot of details that I wasn't familiar with, and what the whole bottom line of this dissolution would cost us. And we need to discuss things more. I mean, we need to keep it out there and let people know what we're doing here. A lot of our discussions go one-on-one behind meetings, that we're in passing, that, the conversations the villagers aren't aware of. And I think that we need not be afraid to really discuss things here, to let people know. So many people do watch this meeting, and when we don't have comments, and we don't talk about things, it really is a perception that we're not doing anything. And I think that we need to be more open and really pay closer attention, and be diligent about what it is that we're doing behind the scenes, that people aren't aware of, and at times there are months that are very light and, nothing's going on. But we do carry on conversations of things, and I think we should, be more open in the discussions here at the meetings to keep the public aware of what we are doing and what is involved in running this village. It is amazing the amount of work that these ladies do, and Larry and his crew, that nobody realizes, totally everything that is involved. And, as we've said, we've all stated, I would be greatly concerned in losing that entity and that identity of our village and what we do provide to the villagers. I think is very important. That's all. I won't say anything else.
No, it's fine. That's an excellent suggestion, one that we need to pay more attention to. So, any other? Well, we are at a point then where, with respect to our request of a couple months ago to deal with this dissolution process, I think a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not continue the process of calling for a dissolution. However, I would like us to take a look at more closely at the shared service possibilities and what we can do to reduce costs and work to stymie the relationships between the town and the
Well,
village.
I think that's a work in progress, and I agree, we need to continue with it and not sit on our laurels over it.
Right.
So second to Amy's motion.
I second Amy's motion.
I think we have a fairly reasonable relationship with the town at this point. I agree that it can be better, that we can share some services, share some situations. I like your planning and zoning board suggestion. It's very tough for us to get people to serve on those boards. If we broaden the pool, so to speak, I don't think the zoning, and there will be some differences, but I think that they can be discussed and worked out. There are other shared services opportunities, I think, that are out there that need to be investigated. We need to be more diligent in looking at grants that are out there, for opportunities to improve the village. The water supply, again, I'd love to see something that reduces the hardness of the water. That takes a lot of the debris, if I can use that, out of the water system, which would, I think we have an excellent product. I really do, but I think we just need to.
Very good product.
I think we need to.
I like some pressures.
Yeah, pay a little more attention to it. Any other discussions? Let's go with the roll call vote with this motion, please.
Trustee Grisenda?
Aye.
Trustee Trombley?
Aye.
Trustee Garrett?
Aye.
Mayor Martin?
Aye. Is there any other business to come before this board? Any other new business?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, have a second?
Second motion.
Second, all in
What?
favor?
Can I ask a question
Yes,
before we all
yes,
say
yes, yes.
yes?
Any discussion?
Is it appropriate now to ask a question on the final budget?
Sure.
Okay, I just have a couple more questions. I had asked last meeting about what we were looking at for our capital outlay for equipment specifically. And I was looking at the different categories where we're maintaining a proposed budget of $11,000, for example, under G 8120. This year so far, we've spent $662.
G 8120.
Yep. And I know our philosophy is to keep the money there in case we have an outlay,
It's G81.
Sanitary sewers.
Sanitary sewers.
sanitary sewer to start with. And also in G 8130.2 of $14,000, and we've spent $236 so far this year. So my question to you, and what we've done in the past, is we've asked, what are the age of our equipment? Where are we standing in the categories? Remember, we had talked about getting a truck. We knew the truck was coming. We knew the plow was coming. What are you seeing, Larry? Because across the board in equipment, we've spent very little this year. and we're proposing the same, if not a little slight increase, in the capital outlay for equipment. What are we looking at, and is there a way to cut some of that this year a little bit? I mean, our tax increase is minimal, and I understand that. But based on the fact that we're going to have a significant amount going into the fund balance at the end of this year, unless you go on a spending spree here. I know. But what I'm saying, Larry, what do you see is, well, let's start in the garage. Let's start up here. What do you see as things that we're gonna be facing so that, you know, we plan for it? Because we do need to put a little aside every year, no question. We can't just all of a sudden say, okay, we need $60,000 for this piece of equipment, and, oh, where are we gonna pull that from? No question, we need to keep banking. But I just would like to know, and I'm okay with banking, because that's good budgeting sense, and it's much better than taking another loan out that you pay ridiculous amounts of money for. What are we looking at?
Equipment-wise or
Yes.
building-wise?
Equipment-wise or what?
Equipment-wise,
Yes, equipment-wise. What are you looking at, say for up here? What are we looking at that is aging and down the road we need to be taking a look at?
probably the sander, new chains and stuff in that. Our riding lawnmower is 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
You know, that's not gonna last forever.
Yeah, but in the sewer,
This
the
is
pump
sewer,
on the
though.
equipment, you were buying a new pump.
Yes, we start, well, I just said what up here,
Yeah.
and
The
then we'll
sewer-
go.
the
Because
sewer-
all of them were significant differences.
I do have some things out for new pumps and stuff, backup pumps and stuff for the sewer plant. I'm just waiting for quotes on them.
Okay. Okay. So up here, you're talking another mower, well, is that blue thing already 6 years old?
I think it's a 2002 or 2003.
I mean, that's the kind of things I want to know,
Yeah.
you know, what is the projected plan for depreciation on these, you know, pieces of equipment? I would love to see some kind of report developed by you. I mean, another thing that is time consuming, I understand, but I'd be happy to help with it, of listing what our capital, you know, what are our big pieces of equipment, and
Okay.
what are we looking at for the depreciation, you know, say, you know, 7 years out, and the cost of replacing it is
We have-
20,000. We do,
Yeah.
okay.
That
I'd
was
love to
part
see
of
that.
the
Shared services.
shared services.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That CUPS program should have a lot of that on
Yeah.
there.
A couple programs should have it.
Wonderful. Because in that way, it shows, so we say, okay, we're putting 2,000 worth towards a tractor this year, and, you know, 1,000 towards the new chains, and blah, blah, blah. So it justifies how we're seeing, you know, $265 spent, but we're projecting a $15,000 budget.
Mhm.
So that's, I'd like to be able to know that and be able to say right off the bat, well, this is what we're planning for. Because it's smart to plan. I mean, anyone who knows doing a budget or maintaining a household, you have to plan. You can't just say, okay, I need a new furnace. You need the $16,000 now. Bam, not gonna happen. So, I would just love to, I'll take a look at that. I'd love to see that. Because we've had very minimal spending this year, which is great. Because we have been buying a lot. We've had to replace a lot of significant things. But that was my
Like
only,
at the wastewater plant, them 2 big Wemco pumps that are down the headwork,
right.
they were there when they redid the plant. And they're $40,000 a piece.
Yeah,
So,
that's very.
and I do have backup pumps for all the lift stations and stuff.
Right. Well, we need to. I mean, that is significant.
I have 3 of them on hand, so.
Okay. That was the last question I had on the budget. It just was reviewing it again and, you know, seeing how little we have spent, and that, and of course the state
Great,
retirement, which you explained to me, which was doubling.
I saw that. I did have a question on this here though, on total street maintenance.
What's the number?
We're looking at for a reduction A 5110-41.
110,
That's chip
Chips.
fund.
just from,
We not knowing what we're gonna get reimbursed, like, we get reimbursed.
Right, but wasn't the chips just that one line item?
.41,
Yeah,
that's
so-
chips, yeah.
So like .4,
That's all contractual.
right.
It's two separate codes.
Agreed. Why is that such a reduction in that code there?
And for which one?
.4. I guess when I said .41, I was looking wrong.
Well, Because didn't we
Oh,
go,
because, you know why? Because it says budgeted, modified budget, 109,000. That's because we took $50,000 out of our fund balance to do all of Elm Street. So I have to modify the budget. We ended up, we took 40,000,
Yeah, I
put it
remember-
into
yeah,
the paving,
I
and then
remember
we
doing
put some
that.
into drainage and culverts. Anyway, that's the modified budget, because I had to
That's-
modify it with what we took from,
and we're looking at Church
Find
Street
out.
this year, right? And what did that
So
cost
that-
us?
that doesn't
just
represent-
A couple of years ago?
Well,
Seems
we're
like we
looking at
did
it, we're
it.
probably gonna have to wait 2 years of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, break it down.
Two
Save up
years
some money.
worth of
We're gonna have to
savings
do the
before
same
can
thing
do
we did
that.
on Prospect.
And that
Or do it in
that
sections.
sinkhole is back at the end of
Fine.
Pine.
That's that way every
Yeah.
winter,
Yeah.
and it
It's
will
like-
level
like,
its way out in the
Willow
spring.
Street, it'll come back up Willow Street's the same way.
Amazing.
It's all got to do with your drainage. What's that?
Got the military turnpike lately?
Ah,
The
Maybe
town
some
just
snow.
redid the
It's
Hayford
awful.
Road and all the
Yeah.
culverts they put
It's
in
bad this year,
there.
it's really bad.
we're over
Okay.
by the truck stop with a horse in the back of the trailer.
Thanks for explaining that, I forgot about, we moved,
that's it.
Right.
well,
Oh,
I forgot
about
we moved 50,000
transferring?
over.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the difference. It looked like we were
This was
It was
reducing
like
it,
the whole street.
42.
The cost of doing the whole street was.
Yeah.
but to me, it looked like we were reducing our budgeted amount in that category, I didn't do that.
Okay, motion stands.
I made
Sorry.
one change here, that,
Which account?
snow removal,
You
General?
have the change in there, but
it's on here, but with what they have from the last time we talked about the budget, it's gonna be different, there'll be some different,
Increase?
yeah.
we ended up increasing it.
One
instead of
increase, we
decreasing.
increased next year's proposed budget for snow removal.
We don't have any
We
snow
cut it
this year.
back, in the original budget, we cut it back from 6,000 to 5,000. I want, looking at what we're spending this year, and I'm anticipating that next year's winter will be hopefully not as financially draining as this one is,
We snow every night.
but I moved it, I
Can you talk
pushed
about
that up
this?
from 5 to 7,
You see that?
which meant a reduction in some of the other areas, but I think those reductions we can manage.
I think one of them was we had taken some money out of community beautification
On our parks, maybe?
and parks, maybe, like $500 in order to keep the budget the same.
Yeah,
I
you
noticed
dropped it 2,500.
Yeah, I noticed a decrease
Yeah,
in
just to,
parks and boat launch.
But we kept the money the same for the Village Fest, which I anticipate will occur this August. So.
Well, actually, I'll let it save them on the salt to pay for the
Yes.
snow removal for the year.
Yes,
Yeah.
that will help greatly.
More than $3,400 on salt compared to 15,000.
Yeah, the snow removal budget.
Say that again?
I said we only paid $3,400 for salt this year compared to 15,000.
But salt shed will pay for itself in 2 years. Just in our city. Anything else?
That's not what's in there, so that's cool. Good.
I'll remake my motion for adjournment.
Okay, we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hmm?
So if anyone opposed, it's a forever vote.
Yes, sir.
yeah, that's what happens when you take things from.
I couldn't, well, that,
From the
minute you
fund
said
balance,
that.
you have to modify your budget.
the other